Team 7 and Haku, after clearing the forest, would wait for others to arrive, and as they did, they spotted Kushina, who waved to Naruto as all the Genin grouped together. It was then explained by the former Lord Third, Minato still being there though, that the next round of Chunin exams were going to be one-on-one battles, and in the middle of his explanation, Hayato appeared, and explained that he was the proctor, and since there were too many participants, there had to be a preliminary, a culling, if you will. As this was being explained, Orochimaru, who had disguised himself, was looking around for his sound ninja, but couldn't find them. He became slightly uneasy that they might have been defeated in the forest, and focused on Team 7 and Haku, wondering if they were the ones that took them out. Hayato then finished explaining, and then told everyone to position themselves away from the arena. In the stands, Naruto ran towards his mother and asked what she was doing there. She explained that she was one of the Jonin looking over the applicants, and she was going to stick around and watch. As they spoke, another applicant walked over and Sasuke approached them. The girl stood in front of them and said, "Hello, little cousin." Sasuke then said, "What is that you want, Tenten?" "Yes, Tenten Uchiha." While brainstorming, I thought that there wasn't enough Uchiha representation, even though they're kind of still alive, so I thought about like adding more like a team. But then I thought about how they're ninja like Team 8, where they're all part of different clans with different Genkai. And there's Neji and Hinata, so I thought really adding one, even though like all those clans are alive and well, adding just one wouldn't be too weird. And since Tenten isn't someone really anyone cares about, doesn't really have anything important about her, she doesn't really have a last name, I don't think, I thought about adding this to make her a little cooler. So, back at it. Sasuke asked Tenten what she was doing, and then she smirked at him and said, "Why so snappy? I just wanted to see how my little cousin was." She got a response of, "We are enemies. I'd be going against you in the first round. I'm not trying to get too buddy-buddy." Tenten once again smirked and said, "Fine, but don't get your hopes up too high, any of you. You not only have to worry about me, but my teammate, Neji. He was our class's Rookie of the Year, and is a genius." She then began to walk towards her team, and as she did, said, "I know your team is strong. I know you, Sasuke, and people have heard about you guys fighting and bringing in one of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, and his partner," she said, looking at Haku. "But Neji's Hyuga style is a thing to behold. Better watch out." Tenten then walked away, and Sasuke scoffed and assured his teammates that they would be the ones to come out on top. But at the very least, they should still keep a close eye on her team, seeing that Lee guy was also with her, and while Sasuke and Naruto could handle them, that was on 2-on-1, and you had yet to see him go all out. Naruto then chimed in saying, "Psh, whatever, I'm not gonna get rattled. Plus, I bet that Neji guy isn't even the strongest Hyuga here." Speak of the devil, he then directed the group's attention towards Hinata, who was walking over with something in hand. "Hi there, Naruto. I saw that you looked a little rough and worn out, so I thought I might bring you this." Hinata then gave him some healing cream to rub on his injuries. He then began to rub some on and said, "Thanks, Hinata, this is definitely what I needed." She then blushed bright red, because even though she had spent much more time together with him, thanks to Kushina's influence, she was still a pretty nervous girl. Kushina then nudged Naruto with her elbow and told him, "Well, Naruto, do you have anything that you might want to give in return?" Naruto thought about it for a sec and thought, "Yeah, I think I do. Come over with me for a sec, Hinata," he said as he led her away. Kushina then said, "That's not what I meant when I said give it to her, Naruto," and she ran after them. Naruto stopped her though and said, "Oh, and Mom, I think Haku might need your help." He explained what happened in the forest, and Kushina went over to Haku and told him that she was going to help him out. As she said that, the first match is being picked. Just so you know, the matches are randomized. So the contestants would be chosen, and the first match would be Fu versus Kiba. Fu looked to her team and said, "Wish me luck," as she and Kiba jumped down from the stands. Kiba yelled toward Fu, "What a shame! If I was gonna have to fight someone in Team 7, I was hoping it'd be Naruto or Sasuke." Fu just smirked and told him that he can talk all he wants, but he was going down. The match then began, and Kiba brought out Akamaru, wanting to end the match quickly and show off. He was about to use Fang over Fang, but Fu used a hidden mist jutsu. The mist somewhat dulled the pair's senses, but they smelled fire as it got close and they dodged out of the way. Fu rushed from out in the mist as well and threw Sunbone at Akamaru in a way that left him paralyzed. Kiba saw this and went towards his dog, and Fu got in front of him and pulled out a kunai, holding it as if it was a sword, and put all the kenjutsu training that she did with Zabuza to use. She took a breath and rushed toward Kiba, who came at her with his claw-like nails, and the two slashed at each other, pausing for a moment, but then Kiba falling, giving Fu the W. By the end, Naruto and Kushina would have both finished their business, and Orochimaru would have interrupted the sealing this time, and the curse would be completely sealed, as Kushina's sealing as an Uzumaki would be much better than Kakashi. Kushina would alert Anko though, as she had a curse mark that was also sealed by Kushina, but Anko would tell her that somewhat towards the ending of the Forest of Death part of the exams, that she had encountered Orochimaru, and she would give the same advice to Minato as she did to her Ruzen canon. And an investigation would also be going on later after the preliminaries, but the Chunin exams would still go on, saying, or rather Minato saying that he could handle whatever was to come. The second match then began, and it was Tamare vs Shino. And while I do want to give the boy Shino a dub, this just isn't his match. When Shino would try and swarm Tamare with bugs, the power of her wind would be too strong and they'd be knocked back. And before he could try more sneaky tactics, he'd be overpowered and would lose. Match 3 would be Sasuke vs Kankara. Sasuke would be wary of the Sand Trio, and when the match began, he would start with a fireball. He'd pretty much try to fight from long range, and would wind up winning, Kankuro not using his second puppet or anything like that. Match 4, Gaara vs Ino, the final of the Sand Trio's fight. And obviously, Gaara would be the most intimidating of the group, and everyone who hadn't seen him in action would want to know what he could do. And needless to say, he slaps. It's a wash, and Ino loses. And seeing his power, the spectators get shook. He wouldn't go as far as he did in this fight with Lee because Ino wouldn't stand as much of a threat. He wouldn't do as much to her. She wouldn't do as much to him. Match 5 is Kabuto versus Haku. Kabuto wouldn't just give up because he'd want to take his chances that he'd be matched up with one of the two candidates for Orochimaru's new body, and lucky him, he'd be versus Haku. Kabuto would rush him and get hit with flying crystals of ice. Kabuto would use a chakra scalpel to break through them and would continue running forward. Haku would unveil a new jutsu. After waving the appropriate hand signs, he'd start to release a cold, dense mist from his mouth that engulfed the area, causing Kabuto to not only have his sight blocked off, but made it harder to breathe. And it'd also be really cold. Haku would put his mask on, and then call the jutsu Ice Style, Frozen Mist Jutsu. Then, it was time for the finishing move. Before he could use it though, Kabuto surrendered. Haku then cleared the frozen mist, and it was revealed that there were multiple long shards of floating ice in the air, aimed at Kabuto, that proceeded to crumble. He developed a smirk and thought, "Well, Lord Orochimaru, it seems like you've chosen some very interesting prospects." Match 6, Lee vs Choji. Lee would win here, as I'm sure Choji would probably try to use the human boulder, but I see Lee just kicking him away like a soccer ball, and takes the dub. Match 7 be Tenten vs Yorui. Tenten would look to Sasuke and tell him to observe closely, which he knew he'd be able to with his Sharingan. Tenten would activate her Tutamoi and take out a bow staff, which would be one of her top 3 weapons, the other 2 being a chain sickle and a katana. As they fought, Yorui would get in a few hits, and his ability would also get figured out, so Tenten would switch to her chain sickle so she could fight from long range. She fended him off and ended the battle by sending her chain around his leg and yanking it, making him trip. She then ran up to him and then held the tip of her sickle to his throat. forcing him to yield. In case any of you are wondering why Masuni isn't here, he didn't make it. The victory for match 7 went to Tenten. Now, match 8. Neji vs Hinata, one that was not randomized. Tenten, after winning her match, would go up to where her cousin was and gloated about her victory as they watched who would go next. They then saw the fighters to be Neji and Hinata Hyuga. Tenten, at saying this, would say, "Well, that sucks. Looks like your little friend is gonna lose." Naruto got steamed and said, "There's no way Hinata's gonna lose." "Sorry, half and half, but Neji's even stronger than me. No way that timid little girl can beat him." Naruto smirked and said, "I've been training with Hinata, and while she seems timid, she's actually a lot stronger than she lets on." The two Hyuga got ready, and Neji then began to spout some Destiny BS, and then Hayato would say, "Begin!" The two rush at each other, and the battle goes, well, similar to how it was in canon. Both would be stronger here. Neji then started putting on more pressure though, and Tenten once again ingrained that Hinata would lose, as he blocked his opponent's chakra points and then knocked her to the ground. Neji then told Hinata there was no way that she could win and told her to withdraw. At hearing this, Naruto tightly gripped the rails and gritted his teeth. He then yelled, "Shut up!" grabbing everyone's attention. "Hinata, don't listen to that Neji guy. We train together, and I know that you're a lot stronger than even you think you are. Release the seal and then get up and show that loser who you really are." Naruto was now out of breath, but that message was received. Hinata got up and stared Neji down. Neji said he didn't know why the son of a Kage would even concern himself with her, but she then told him that he was right, that she would beat him. She then proceeded to lift her shirt a little, revealing a similar seal to Naruto's, and released it. When she did, a burst of orange chakra enveloped her body for a moment, clearing her wounds, and then it went away. She then got upright, and Sasuke looked toward Naruto and said, "Naruto, what's with that? That was definitely Child Beast chakra." Naruto told him, "Well, I extracted a little Child Beast chakra and put it into a seal that I placed on Hinata. So basically, when she released it, her wounds would heal and she'd feel better, which is basically all it did." Hinata then told her cousin, "What Naruto said was right. He helped me get stronger and I won't lose. After all, it's our ninja way. We don't give up." Hinata rushed towards Neji and put the pressure onto him. She started pushing him back and then knocked him away. "Now try this," she said as she generated lightning in her palm, since while Naruto was learning to do it, she did it alongside him. She then yelled, "Lightning Palm!" as she struck her cousin with lightning running rampant in her hand, causing not only his chakra points to get shut off, but his body to become even more limp. He then became open and she said, "I'm ending this here." She concentrated wind into her hand and yelled, "Hyuga style, Gale Palm!" shooting a blast of wind, causing him to fly back and then fall to the ground. Hayate checked Neji and declared, "Hinata Hyuga wins." Tenten was in shock, and Naruto began to cheer as loud as he could. And as Hinata went over to him, Neji then said, "I bet you feel good, don't you? The main branch being able to put down the side. You're caged birds, right?" He then ripped off his headband, revealing the curse mark on his forehead. Hinata, with a stern look, walked over to him and said, "For this entire fight, you belittled and insulted me, taking pleasure in causing me pain. You have no right to say what you said. But even so, I know the horrors of the branch's curse mark. So, as the one who will claim our title as future head of the Hyuga, I'll take the time to train with Naruto and Miss Kushina and gain enough sealing knowledge to remove the mark and change the ways of the clan." She then began to turn and walk away, but then as she did, she fell over, not realizing how tired she was. Before she could hit the ground, Naruto appeared to catch her and said, "Don't worry, I've got you, and great job." Hinata smiled, and so did Kushina, thinking, "Ah, just like his father." remembering back to a time where Minato helped save her and literally swept her off her feet. He'd carry her over to the medical ninjas, and as they loaded her onto a stretcher, he'd leave her with the healing cream that she gave him. He'd then walk into the ring, knowing that it was going to be the final match next, and that he and Shikamaru were the only ones left. "Come on down, Shikamaru. Let's do this." The ponytailed slacker then reluctantly walked down and said, "I'd rather not, but Asuma wouldn't let me bail, and I know you wouldn't stop pestering me if I did either." Naruto stared intensely at his opponent, and Shikamaru closed his eyes and cupped his hands, beginning to strategize on how he'd beat his opponent. After coughing out a lung, Hayate then yelled, "Begin the match!" Before the exams, elsewhere, Danzo Shimura would be opening his eyes to find that he was tied up in a dark room. As he began to try and get himself loose, a voice would come from the darkness and say, "Sorry if you're not too comfortable. Oh, and the part where Orochimaru had to knock you out after getting you out of jail. I'd imagine that wasn't too comfortable either." Danzo yelled out to the voice, "Who are you? Where am I?" "Calm down. We just want to make you an offer. Not like you were doing much in your cell." "Well, what is this offer?" Another voice then said, "Danzo, you've been wronged by the leaf, correct? I'm sure you feel spite towards the village, right?" Danzo thought about his incarceration. "The Uchiha were planning an insurrection. I was controlling the problem within the village. I took Chisui's eye, but that made me more fit to protect the village." A third voice then started stepping from out the shadows while saying, "Chisui's eye wasn't the only one you stole. If it was, I wouldn't have had to make that arm of yours." He then revealed himself as Orochimaru. The first voice spoke up again. "Well, we're not here to focus on that now. We know you hold a grudge against the Leaf. They didn't appreciate you and imprisoned you, right? Well, how about this? A plan to destroy the Leaf that leads to a much bigger goal later on. Though first, let's formally introduce you to our group." The other two then stepped out from the shadows, and the one in the middle said, "We are Akatsuki. I am King. You already know Orochimaru. To your left is Madara. What are these plans of yours? And those eyes? How do you have a pair of those eyes?" Danzo asked, uncertain of how he even wanted to move forward. "Oh, these?" King said as he stepped forward, revealing two Rinnegan. "We can get into that later. As for our plans, for the Leaf, it's known as Konoha Crush. This plan will help to not only settle some grudges, but to help lead up to an even greater plan, Infinite Tsukiyomi. Though, if you wish to learn more, then you'll have to join us. What do you say?" he said, while cutting through Danzo's ropes and sticking out a hand. Danzo reached out and said, "You have my attention." Alright, that's going to be the end of the video of What If Kushina Minato Survived Part 4. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. Already know the next video will be on soon. I guess I'm going to try to be more consistent. Next video, I've already a good bit done of the script, and I've already got the thumbnail done. So, I'm going to be putting that up in a second. Hope you enjoy. It's going to be Don Sauce voicing out. Bye. Take a look at the thumbnail.